Good afternoon, Tony Dattino, founder of the USA Memory Championship, fighting off a bit of a head cold, but I wanted to do my live with Tony and keep my momentum going on it. And as I was reading articles over the weekend, it just brought to my focus that we are just all one body, right? We tend to take our medical world and we treat the head, and we treat the shoulders, we treat the and when it comes to your body's systems for how we think and how we work, and the body's mechanisms for keeping the whole working, you come to realize that the brain starts off with all of it and then figures out how to send out its various messages. So here we go. Our brain undergoes 4 dramatic periods of change from age 0 to 90. In the first phase, which occurs between birth and 9 years old, our brain matter tracks between brain regions seem to become longer and more convoluted, making them less efficient. It takes longer for information to pass between the regions. This is because our brain is packed with connections as infants, but as we grow and experience life, the ones we don't use are pruned away. So you've heard about pruning, right? Meaning it's like a tree where the branches are not bearing their fruit, and the farmer comes along, or the orchard grower comes along and prunes the branches that are not producing the fruit. Well, our brains are working the same way. The brain seems to prioritize making a range of connections that are useful, like learning to play a piano, at the cost of taking less efficient ones and pruning them. And so it's interesting to see what our brain is doing at an early stage in our life. So the question that raised to me is, God, 0 to 9, how do you learn? How do you take a 9-year-old and get him to say, gee, I want you to keep as many brain cells as you can? But during the second phase, between 9 and 32, the pattern seems to flip, which may be driven by the onset of puberty and hormonal changes that influence development. The brain is increasing the efficiency of the connections, and it supports the development of skills like planning, decision-making, improvements in cognitive performance, and working, and working memory. So our working memory is really in the 9 to 32-year-old, and we're learning how to improve our memory. We have skills that we can learn, and by the way, you can learn those skills at any age, as you can see from our competitors in the USA Memory Championship. But that's the second phase of what's going on. The third phase is the longest, and that's from 32 to 66. In this phase, your brain is changing, but less. Connections between regions switch back to gradually losing efficiency. It's unclear exactly what drives the shift, but the 30s map onto a lot different major lifestyle changes. So having kids so they could play a role. It could also just be down to general wear and tear. And then from ages 66 to 83, the team found that connections between neurons in the same brain regions seem to be more stable. In the final phase, from ages 83 to 90, the connections between brain regions weaken and increasingly pass through hubs that connect lots of areas. It suggests that there are fewer resources to maintain connections during this phase, so the brain relies more on using certain regions to act as hubs. So as I read through that, I come back and say, wait a minute. You're learning USA memory type skills. The mental athletes that have competed in the USA Memory Championship are certainly practicing creating new pathways, new associations, and new memories. Which then brought me to another article that I was reading, okay? And this one says remaking memories. So now we're gonna remake memories. So I'm like looking at this and saying, okay, we got these certain phases, and what's going on? Who's remaking memories? So what can we do? Memory manipulation sounds like it's a little science fiction, but it actually is a healthy idea. So how do you go back when you look at your memories and you go back and remake them? Memory manipulation sounds sinister, but visions of erased histories or implanted lies. In the lab, the reality is gentler and more helpful. The discoveries that let us toggle memories on and off in mice are teaching us how to heal the brain from within, including how to weaken traumatic recollections The key word there is traumatic recollections. Strengthen fading ones and rebalance the emotions that memories carry with us. And so those would be good things. So how do we go back and relook at traumatic experiences, post-traumatic stress system? How do we go back and strengthen ones that we want to maintain and keep? And how do we rebalance the memories that have emotional content to it and relook at them in a different way? I think that's all very, very good and all very, very helpful. Over the past decade, the work has revealed three broad principles. First, memories are malleable when they are being stored, recalled, and retained. That's a key point. Memories are stored, recalled, and restored. Second, they are distributed across the brain rather than in one region, not just in one spot. Oh, here it is, or here it is. No, it's throughout the whole brain region. And third, they can be etched into the brain. Each principle reframes what editing memory really means. When we form a memory, brain cells fire together and strengthen connections. The process can be enhanced or impaired. It can be either, based on the pattern of stimulation. So there's some thoughts that say, God, we're not doomed. It's not like, we have a memory and we got to keep that. It's how do you manage to change that memory and undo it? Daily steps slow Alzheimer's. This is a great one. This is really simple. Older people who are particularly at risk of Alzheimer's could slow their cognitive decline by walking 3,000 steps a day. The step count might have this effect is unclear, but it could be linked to the impact of regular exercise on inflammation and blood flow to the brain. Which then brought me to another article. Again, I'm reading these articles and saying, God, they kind of ripped them out and connected. Men may need more exercise than women. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. It's an interesting concept, but this one goes on to say, men over 50 may have to exercise more than twice as much as women to get the same heart benefits. An analysis has found that men in this age group need more than 9 hours per week of moderate to vigorous exercise to gain a 30% drop in coronary heart disease risk compared with just 4 hours for women. And boy, and that may explain why more men are having heart attacks than women, but my goodness, these are some of the principles that are coming out of this that are just fantastic. And then, nothing is certain. Human minds abhor uncertainty. This is a problem that we need to find solutions for. What does that mean? When we have what we call blanks, our brains get stressed and anxious to try to work its cycle to fill in the blanks. We need to signal to our brains what can be won through cooperation across identity groups, and ultimately the big global challenges of our time can be overcome by overcoming our brains' vulnerabilities together. Which is another way of saying, when you fall on the tolerance of uncertainty, it depends on how you process that uncertainty and how you come back and look at that. So those were just several articles that I was reading over the weekend, and then the one about exercising was good. There's another one I read about sleep. There's another one about mental challenges, and they all come together in what we've been putting out to people in our online course, 6 Key Factors for Maintaining Long-Term Cognitive Fitness. So I think we've been on target. It's exciting to see the science world catching up to things that we've been talking about for years based on our experience with the USA Memory Championship. And the people that have competed in the Memory Championship have made it really a study group of what can be done to improve our memories. And we are in Christmas week, so we get to memories about Christmas and what are the good memories we have and sometimes what are the sad ones. But we're on our way, and it's a few days away, and it'll be Merry Christmas time. So we'll see you again on Wednesday, Christmas Eve, and I hope you are planning to travel. If you are, be safe, be smart. Don't rush to get anywhere. Get there safely is the important thing.